Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the DCAP. I'm your host, Dominic Capilupo, and today I'm joined by Dan Montague, Michael Kubicek, and Anthony Marchese Jr. First off, I'd like to begin by thanking Jag1 for providing the music that you're hearing right now. They just released their first single called Microburst on Bandcamp. The link to Microburst will be in the description below, so go check them out, as I am sure you will like what you hear. Now today, we're going to talk to you about the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series playoffs. First off, I'd like to begin by talking about the first round, the round of 16. We'll be seeing 3 tracks, Las Vegas, Richmond, and the Charlotte Roval. So, I open discussion. What do you think we're going to see in the first round, guys?
Well, I think the first obvious thing is with the Charlotte Roval, that's obviously going to be more of a wild card race, you know. We haven't seen a full cup race there yet, so it's really hard to judge who's going to win there. I look at guys who have had road course success like Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and even Chase Elliott with that Watkins Glen win this year, but Charlotte will definitely be interesting. In my opinion, I think Harvick wins Vegas and Kyle Busch wins Richmond.
Yeah, Richmond has been a good track for Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with what Dan said there. I have strong feelings. Harvick, he did well earlier this season at Vegas. We'll probably do it again there. Kyle Busch has been one of the dominant cars also this year. And I honestly could not tell you who's going to win out of the Charlotte, because it's such a new track for all of us to experience that we really don't know what to expect.
In my opinion, you can never count out the big three, but I feel like Las Vegas and Richmond could be one of those, or two of those races where, because you want to go into the Roval thinking, I have the win that locks me into the next round, so I don't have to worry about that. So I feel like Vegas and Richmond could also be somewhat of those wild card races to get to the Roval and be like, hey, I don't have to go here and worry about getting wrecked or getting in an incident or anything.
Yeah, I mean, Richmond was moved to the second race of the first round of the playoffs, first time ever it's in the playoffs, but I definitely think that Richmond could become as almost more of an aggression race as it was before, when it was the last race before the chase. I think these guys definitely, like mid playoffs, like eighth in points on back, they're going to be thinking, well, this is my only shot where I can really control my own destiny, because who knows what could happen at the Roval. So people are going to be using that bumper, I feel like, at Richmond, and I think it could provide one of the best Richmond races we've ever seen. As you know, Richmond over the last few years has kind of died down with this new playoff system, as points haven't been that big towards the end of the season, where there's 2 guys battling like Jeff Gordon, Kyle Busch 2012. It has been as intense at Richmond, but now with it being in the playoffs and it meaning a lot, I think it could provide some great short track racing.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, Richmond has never been one of my favorite short track races. This year, I feel like it has potential to be a good race, but at the same time, with how these cars race and how dominant the big three have been, I feel like this race is just going to be another flop.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be something we have to wait and see. I mean, who knows whether you, like what Dom said, with a lot of people going into the Roval not really knowing, they may want to try to find a way to get that win to ensure themselves that they're in. So we may see a lot more teams gamble a little bit and try to make sure that they manage a secure spot in case something happens at the Roval. But who really knows?
All right, so we bring all that up. So I want to hear from you guys. Who do you guys think are the first 4 out of the playoffs? For me, it's definitely, I think, Austin Dillon. He has not shown anything all season after that Daytona 500 win. He's only got 2 top 5s this year, and that 500 being one of them. I think Eric Almirola, he hasn't been consistent enough for me to advance to the next round. Alex Bowman, good year for him, bringing that 88 back to the playoffs, but I don't think it's meant to be to make it to the next round. And this could be a surprise, could not be. Like I said, with this guy, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets eliminated, and I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it on. And I think Jimmy Johnson just misses it and is out in the first round.
So, for me, my 4 getting eliminated are exactly the same, except I have Eric Jones getting eliminated instead of Jimmy Johnson. You know, with Jimmy and Chad Knaus together, they are, you know, a chase team. And, you know, it could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised if they get eliminated. They've had an abysmal season. But, I don't know, I feel like that switch has just been waiting to get turned on. And I think, you know, this could be their only chance to do it. So, I think Jimmy and Chad make it to the next round, and Eric Jones gets eliminated just because of his lack of experience in the chase. Maybe, you know, some pressure gets to him or something, but I think Eric Jones gets eliminated.
Interesting.
I kind of agree with what Dom said. I have the exact same 4 that Dom eliminated because I feel like those have been the 4 drivers that haven't shown me enough to warrant them advancing to the next round. I can understand what Dan's saying. You can never really count out the 7-time champion Jimmy Johnson, but he hasn't had that season. But hopefully, we can maybe see him step up in the playoffs. But I would have to agree with Dom with who I had out in my first 4.
I'm with Mike and Dom. I have the same exact 4 eliminated because Austin Dillon, like Dom said, ever since Daytona, has not done a thing. Eric Almirola, he has the speed to even go to the round of 8, and if he even had the speed to go to the championship 4, but he does not have the consistency to do it because he could finish 8th one week and then 30th the next.
Yep.
Jimmy Johnson, he is the 7-time champ, and I understand what you're saying, but I just don't see it this year. Maybe next year, but definitely not this year. And Alex Bowman just hasn't shown enough. The thing with me with Eric Jones is he has the second best average finish recently of all drivers, and he's only behind Kevin Harvick. So I feel like he's starting to step it up, even with the lack of a playoff experience. I feel like he can definitely step that up.
He's definitely been a quick learner coming up through the ranks. So, majority of us got the 4 out. We got Dylan, Johnson, Bowman, Almirola, and we have Dan also including Eric Jones. So that brings us to the round of 12. We will be seeing 3 different tracks here. We got Talladega, Kansas, and Dover. 3 completely different tracks. I think that'll be interesting. Dover, you got the Monster Mile. A mile on concrete. It's like no other track on the schedule. Talladega, that's another wild card. You know, you got a wild card in the first 2 rounds with the Roval and Talladega. And then you go to Kansas, and Kansas has almost looked like a wild card the last few years in the playoffs. Anything can happen at that track since the repave. So, what do you guys think? What are we going to see in this round?
So, Talladega, obviously, you have to look out for the Penske guys, especially Logano Keselowski. Kansas, you just look at Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick. You can say that about any mile and a half. Right now, I'd say probably 95% chance that the big 3 wins at Kansas. And then Dover, pretty much the same story. Just Harvick and Busch, they can win anywhere, anytime, especially this season. They definitely, I don't want to say they have something that the other guys don't, but it appears like they do just because of how far superior they are than the rest of the field.
Definitely dominating this sport.
But I would also say Larson is good at Dover and Kansas as well, so I would throw him in the mix as well with that. He hasn't shown a lot that he's shown last season, but he's been consistent enough to be up there to be considered for the win each time, so I wouldn't also sleep on Larson with those races either.
Yeah, with that being said, I think Chevy in general has had a lot of growing pains this year, though. I mean, you look, you know, Larson, he's been close to a couple wins. Chase Elliott has the win. Austin Dillon got that lucky 500 win. But other than that, Chevy really hasn't done anything this year. You see maybe 2 Chevys in the top 10 consistently every week, so that's definitely interesting. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I just want to throw that in there.
Oh, it's all good.
Good.
Personally, I feel like Dover, I can agree with Dan on the part where the big three can win anywhere. And I just feel like that's going to be a Harvick Busch domination. I feel like with Kansas, it could be different without the big three. Because I feel like Kyle Larson running the high side can, if he stays out of the wall, can definitely contend. And I feel like as Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson got together in the first race, that the both of them will probably have 2 of the best speeds at that track.
Definitely should have been one of them,
Like,
too, in the spring.
Keselowski and Logano are probably the 2 to look at for Talladega if they want to make the round of 8.
Yeah, and Anthony, you and I have talked about this, off air. Ryan Blaney, Kansas is probably, if not his best track. So I could definitely see him being a top 5, top 3 contender. And like you said, if it weren't for the contact that him and Larson had, Larson was definitely fast. So with that being said, my 4 eliminated. The first one is kind of surprising because I said Penske is always good at Dega, but I think Logano gets eliminated. I think Denny Hamlin gets eliminated. Kurt Busch gets eliminated. And it starts to get tough. I'd say probably Chase Elliott gets eliminated.
And interesting because for my 4, I've got 2 of who you said. I got Logano and Kurt Busch out. I've also got Clint Boyer out. I think these tracks don't line up for Clint Boyer too well. He's really struggled his home track in Kansas. He's been all right on the restrictor plates. He definitely has a couple wins on them, but I mean I don't think anyone can stop the Gibbs or Penske cars there. And
I'm sorry, Dom, I gotta interrupt you there. I misspoke. Let's see. Chase Elliott stays through. I forgot I still had Jimmy Johnson in there, so Jimmy Johnson gets eliminated in the round of 12.
Okay.
That's my bad there.
And then I got Ryan Blaney out there. I think Blaney has enough to get to the second round. I think he's definitely good at Kansas. But Dover, I haven't seen too much from Ryan Blaney. And Talladega, it just seems like Ryan Blaney's always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Poor guy there. He's just getting caught up in everything at those plate tracks. So I think Kansas, obviously going into Kansas, we'll see where Ryan Blaney is on points. Because that could end up being a must-win race for him, as that is the cutoff race for the round. So those are my 4 who are out.
I kind of can go off of that and kind of have some similar from both Dan and Dom there. I have Logano out, I have Eric Jones out, I have Ryan Blaney out, and I have Clint Boyer out. I feel like, Blaney has a shot at Kansas, stuff like that, but I feel like he hasn't had enough to show me that he can win at one of those tracks yet. He's got the speed, he just hasn't had the luck. Jones, it realistically all comes down to what happens at Talladega, with it also being kind of in the middle there. If you have a bad race there, you almost have to go to Kansas must-win situation. So I just feel like some of these guys may not have the best luck at some of these tracks, and that's what kind of gets them into the hole that they're in.
I have to agree there.
My 4 eliminated, it all starts with Denny Hamlin. Simply because he can show speed, like he just showed speed at the Brickyard, and he's had 3 of the last 4 poles in this season. But, like they say, it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish. And sometimes I feel like when he starts on the pole, or even just starts in front in general, he starts to travel back during the race. And if he doesn't get those stage points to try to make the round of 8, it's not going to follow through for him.
I have to agree there.
Logano, if he doesn't win Dega, I personally don't think he has a shot. I feel like Dover is one of the tracks where he struggled a lot. And Kansas, I feel like he always runs around top 10 every single time, but I still don't think, unless he wins Dega, it's going to be enough. Ryan Blaney, I think if he doesn't win Kansas, I don't think he'll make it simply because Dover, he has 2 top 10s there and they're both 8th place finishes. But besides that, Dega, like you said, he's always wrong place, wrong time. Every time he runs good there. In the spring, he got great stage points there and then ended up getting in the big one. And then Eric Jones for me, because he has the speed and he has such a great average finish lately. And he does everything so well now. And he, like you said, he's a quick learner. But I just don't think it follows that far through in the playoffs this year. Maybe next year he could be a legit contender for the Final Four, but just not this year to me.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Before we get to the next round, I definitely have to touch on Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin this year, stage points have haunted him. He could be higher up in the points. He's definitely had the finishes at the end of races, but it almost means nothing when you don't get any stage points this time. I mean, he runs, he drops back at the beginning of the race because they got qualifying down, but they can't get the setup in to start the race. He's falling back and getting 1 stage point maybe if he's lucky. It's just, definitely stage points. These playoffs are definitely gonna be crucial. Like that's definitely gonna make or break people in the cutoff between who makes it in and who doesn't. So we'll move on to the round of 8, and we'll see 3 different tracks here. You got Martinsville, you got Texas, and you have the new ISM. Now the track really isn't different. It's just the start-finish lines where the back stretch used to be, and now the front stretch is the back stretch, and pit road's a little longer. So I don't know how much that's going to make it a change, but it's definitely not how Phoenix used to be. And you'd think, well, that's Kevin Harvick's house, but Kevin Harvick has not done too much there recently to say that that's a lockdown for him. And, the mile and a half of Texas since the repave, I don't know about that track. That track has kind of been on the iffy side of racing-wise. And Martinsville, you always get a great show to Martinsville, especially with these races now ending under the lights. So, what do you guys expect to see here?
Well, right off the bat, I got to disagree with you about ISM. I think they could throw a loop-de-loop into there, and that would...
We've lost Dan for a second.
I think we've lost Dan there for a minute.
Mike, what do you got?
Sorry about that. So Harvick wins ISM easy, Harvick wins Texas easy, and Martinsville, Busch wins it easy. I'm going to be short and quick about that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we kind of already know what happened with Martin. Of course, we may see a few different contenders up there at Martinsville, but I have a good feeling. I agree with Dan. Kyle Busch will probably run away with that one, but I won't be surprised if some of the other playoff drivers are up there towards the front. Because this track, you never know what might happen. We saw what happened towards the end of the race last year. It got intense there, especially... Actually, I'm sorry, it was maybe earlier this season. Whenever they run under the lights. Yeah, it was earlier this season, sorry. Or maybe it was last season, I don't remember. So... But, and then with Texas, who really knows? We really don't have that high groove anymore, so it's kind of harder to pass. So, kind of track position will be kind of important there, and if you have it, you should be fine. And then IMS, we will have to really see how this new track configuration works out. I feel like it may keep some of the drivers that have been really good there that still be good there. It's just now we'll see me more battling there towards the end because they've moved to the start-finish line.
In my opinion, I feel like Martinsville with the day-to-night transition is still going to be a nut show. Considering last year what happened with Elliott and Hamlin, Busch ended up winning with Truex almost beating him, and then a huge big one off of turn 4 coming to the checkered. I just feel like that's going to be another one of those big races where it's just going to be a wreck fest towards the end, and it's a battle basically just to get through and win. Texas, that track is basically a battle for the bottom lane, because if you're not on the bottom lane and you're on the high groove, if you get in the marbles, you're absolutely in the wall and done. And then ISM, I feel like it's the same thing. It's just the finish line's different and the grandstands were built in a different area. I feel like Harvick still has the biggest advantage there. It's the same racetrack to me, just different setting for the finish line.
All right, I'm gonna use this to segue into my championship 4 picks. I think you go into Martinsville and you look at your fastest people you always think of in Martinsville. You got Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch. Those two have really, Jimmy Johnson, but I don't have him in the playoffs then. So I think Denny Hamlin is overdue for a win at Martinsville. And I think Denny Hamlin comes home with the win at Martinsville, and that advances him to the championship 4. But who knows now? That place is crazy. Chase Elliott can win there. He's been fast. Keselowski's been fast there recently. He just got his first win there. Texas, obviously, I think that's going to be a big 3 race. And I think Kyle Busch comes out on the top in there. And then you go to Phoenix, and someone that no one really talks about at Phoenix, I think Kyle Larson, he's really under the radar at Phoenix. Because last year he had a really fast car when he was out of the playoffs, and then he had a mechanical failure again. That guy had no luck last year in the playoffs, and I think karma needs to do him right now. I think he gets the win at Phoenix, and it moves him to the championship 4. And then I think Harvick moves in on points. So I've got Truex out. So we'll be missing one of the big 3 in the final 4. Keselowski out, Elliott, and Eric Jones.
All right. So I agree with you to an extent. I have Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick locked into the final 4 with wins. Eliminated, I have Truex, Bowyer, Chase Elliott, and Ryan Blaney. That makes my final 4 Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Larson. So, maybe a little different there compared to somebody else's.
Yeah, I found it interesting. I actually have all 3 of the big 3 in my final 4. And the other one gets in there because he wins at Martinsville, Chase Elliott. I feel like Chase Elliott finds a way to win at Martinsville and get himself into the final 4. And then I have Harvick and Kyle Busch win the other 2 races, and Truex finding a way to point his way into the final 4.
Yeah, Martinsville definitely owes Chase Elliott a little bit.
Mine is kind of the same and then kind of different. I have Brad winning Martinsville considering the short track success he's had. And I just feel like after last year when Chase Elliott moved him out of the groove and he fell all the way back, I feel like he can get redemption this year by winning. Kyle Busch, I feel like, is going to just easily win Texas, sweep the Texas races. He was dominant there in the spring. And then obviously I think Harvick's going to win ISM. So that leaves 1 driver in on points. And I think that's Mr. Consistency of this season, Kurt Busch. I feel like Kurt can easily make it in on points. I don't feel like Truex has the speed anymore, has the luck anymore like he did. And with that team shutting down, I know that probably has nothing to do with it, but I just don't feel like they have what they did have. Bowyer is just honestly way too inconsistent. Unless he somehow wins at Martinsville again, then I just don't think he can get to the final 4. Elliott, I feel like Martinsville obviously can win, but I just don't think it would happen. And Larson, I just don't think he'll have the luck either to get there. But I do think Kurt Busch can gather all those points and easily make an underdog role at Homestead.
Yeah, a lot of people overlook Kurt Busch. He's definitely, he's good at Martinsville. He's got a win there. He's good at Texas. I mean, he's not fantastic. He's not up there leading every lap, but, he's up there. And Phoenix, Kurt Busch, I mean, I think that team, the speed they've had this year, Storehouse Racing, why not Kurt Busch? Why not? See, it's good to see Kurt Busch up front now. And with that, we go into Homestead. We've got 4 drivers battling for a championship, and I think we'll see a lot of great racing at Homestead. It's definitely hasn't let us down the last couple of years. We come in there, and I've got Harvick, Busch, Larson, Hamlin. Definitely, all four of those guys are good at this racetrack. They've definitely shown it before. Three of them winning there. Larson, probably should have a win there, but, he's courteous and moved out of the way for the playoff drivers there. It's definitely a Kyle Larson track, outside line is the best line. But I think this race comes into a Kyle and Kyle show for the championship. And just like history says, I think history repeats itself, and Kyle Busch comes out on top of the Kyle and Kyle show. I think your 2018 Monster Energy Cup Series champion is Kyle Busch, getting his second championship in his career.
Now, I think it's really easy to pick either Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick to win the championship. I feel like that's kind of the safe pick. I don't blame you for making that pick. But you said it, Homestead is really a high groove racetrack. And, when you say that high line, the first driver you think of is Kyle Larson. So that's why I think in some sort of an underdog role, I think Kyle Larson actually wins the championship.
Definitely would be interesting.
If Larson was made it to the Final Four, he would definitely be a strong pick for me, but I would have to agree with Tom. I think it'll be Kyle Busch this year. He has found ways to do really well at Homestead as well, and the fact that he has been one of the dominant cars all season, I can see him and Harvick definitely have a good battle up there. I feel like it would probably be in the two of them out of my four, which would have been Harvick, Elliott, Truex, and Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch will get it done. I feel like whoever wins the regular season championship has a good leg up on the competition when it comes to winning the playoffs championship.
Yeah, definitely.
So I didn't have Larson in my Final Four, but I definitely have him winning Homestead. Even if he's not a playoff driver, it's like these guys said, it's a high groove racetrack. And if he doesn't get in the wall, even if he does get in the wall, then still sometimes he can actually run away with those kind of races. I put Kurt Busch and Keselowski in the Final Four, but they do not have the speed, in my opinion, to keep up with Harvick and Kyle Busch. And I think Kyle Busch can edge out Harvick. I just don't think Harvick has the speed for Busch at most of those bigger tracks.
So all four of us, we got a Kyle winning the championship. Three of us with Busch, one with Larson. I definitely think they're all good picks. I think none of these picks anyone made today were really way out of proportion where you think, what is he thinking? Definitely. So I think this is a good job. Hopefully after each race or after each round, we'll come back here around this round table and we'll talk about it and review our picks and see how our picks did and preview each round. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today on the show.
No problem at all.
No problem.
Hope to have you guys back again, and I'd like to thank you guys for watching, listening. Make sure you check out the description with Jag1. Check out Microburst. I'm sure you guys will love it. So hopefully these playoffs are as good, if not better, as previous years, and we see a great battle for the championship. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.